2,000 years ago, there lived in Pyramid Valley, North Canterbury, a giant flightless bird, the moa. But long before the coming of the European, the moa had vanished from Pyramid Valley. The years passed. It was the year 1937, when a North Canterbury farmer, Joseph Hodgson, and his son Rob, faced the task of burying a dray horse. For soft digging, they chose the uncultivated swamp paddock in Pyramid Valley. But before the grave was deep enough, 3 massive bones were brought to the surface. The 6-foot leg of Dinornis, largest of New Zealand's moas. 9 months later, amateur naturalist David Hope took the bones to the Canterbury Museum. The first museum party went up in February 1939, prepared at least to recover the remaining bones. But before the day was over, 5 deposits had been discovered. With the cheerful assistance of volunteers, the work progressed by means of one-day excursions until March 1949, when the first of many systematic excavations were carried out by Canterbury Museum staff. Let us now follow the progress of a typical excavation. Under the direction of Dr. Roger Duff, the 18-inch peat crust is first stripped from a 12-foot square. This peat surface dates back to 1600 BC. At 18 inches, a change of colour indicates a 40-inch layer of swamp sediment, a jelly-like mass that was responsible both for trapping the birds and preserving their bones. This 7-foot shaft yielded mud samples for dating the age of the swamp. By a study of radioactive carbon atoms from peat, lake mud and timber, it's possible to assess with reasonable accuracy the approximate age of any animal or vegetable remains. Thus, nuclear science is gradually enabling investigators to pinpoint when moas were numerous in Pyramid Valley. Bogged like his moa predecessors. First sign of a moa skeleton, the lower end of a shin bone. Only knives and bare hands were used at this stage of excavating. The tiny skull requires careful knife work. Windpipe rings and toe joint. The 3 bones of a 6-foot leg, alongside the massive pelvis of Dinornis, the largest moa. An average collection of gizzard stones, 220 pebbles weighing 5.5 pounds. First bone to be freed from the swamp sediment, a 3-foot drumstick. The pelvis is lifted clear. After days of painstaking work, an almost complete Dinornis skeleton is laid out on the pit edge. The 6-foot legs flank the joints of the neck. The massive foot of the largest bird. During all excavations, the relative numbers of the 4 types of moas remained constant. Emeus about 50%, Dinornis 20%, Pachyornis 10%, and Euryapteryx 10%. The great majority of skeletons were those of grown or fully adult birds, and nothing ranking in any way as a chick was found. And at the end of each day's digging, the excavated bones are washed free of the clinging matrix of lake sediment. Why do the Moas frequent swamps? The answer at the moment is obscure, but one theory has it that since the retreat of the glaciers there have been marked alterations of climate. Assuming the present cycle has been growing drier for several thousand years, swamps would be frequented by Moas as a source of rank and lush tussock and vegetation. In dry summers, the surface water would retreat and encourage the birds to venture out onto an apparently hard surface, through which it was only too easy to sink into the treacherous mud beneath. At Pyramid Valley, there's one clue to the time of the year at which the birds trod the swamp surface, namely the absence of any evidence of nesting. Only one fully formed egg has been found. Unlaid but fully developed when the bird was trapped, the egg had collapsed into over 200 saucer-shaped fragments. A treasure indeed, the museum's first Moa egg and the world's only egg of Emeus crassus. Can the egg be restored? With rubber cement and patient perseverance, each fragment is carefully matched. Gradually, an arch is built up. The critical stage of reconstruction, fitting two large segments. Oh, be careful. After weeks of painstaking work, the perfect Moa egg is completed. Almost 8 inches long, it was produced by the emu-sized Moa, Emeus crassus. Dinornis maximus would have laid an egg nearly twice this size. Meanwhile, in the yard of the Canterbury Museum, the start is made on the reconstruction of a complete skeleton of the giant Dinornis. This variety stood higher than any living mammal, excepting the giraffe and African elephant. Its leg bones are more massive than those of a draft horse. It's recorded that when Richard Owen, that great anatomist, first saw a Moa bone, he refused to believe that a bird could have grown such a bone, or that the bird could have lived in New Zealand. Moas were supremely adapted by nature for getting bogged. They'd lost all trace of a wing or forelimb, which might have assisted their effort to clamber out of a swamp, and had developed heavy legs and a low centre of gravity in their enormous pelvis. Next, the cage of the ribs is added to the pelvis. The first joint of the soaring neck. The problem of deciding this bird's exact height is lack of agreement on the way he carried his neck, whether upright like a crane or low-looped like a swan. Until this is decided, the height of a fully grown bird can only be expressed in terms of 10 to 12 feet. Finally, the head with its small brain but massive beak adapted to the incessant grazing and browsing necessary to support this enormous bird. These, then, are the treasures of Pyramid Valley, hard won from a swamp on the foothills of North Canterbury, New Zealand.